Hey, Corinne. So I'm wondering, how do I start saving and investing?
I had this question myself not too long ago. It can be a little bit daunting to figure out where to even get started. I think the very first step isn't even so much about how or where to save and invest, but really what your goals are. So we have a whole separate video on goal setting and the timelines that are associated with that. But it's really important to know your goals first because each goal comes with its own timeline. And one of the things that I had learned is that our timelines really affect what kind of investments we might choose, what kind of accounts we may choose to place our money in. So we need to know our goals and the timelines that come with them. So, for example, what might be a goal that you have within the next year?
So I am wanting to start traveling more. So I think it would be really fun to plan a trip maybe to somewhere in like South America for like a few weeks and have money in advance so that I know all my stuff's covered for that.
Yes, that's a great goal. So wanting to take a lovely trip to South America, have everything all set and paid for. So if that's going to be within a year, we want to make sure that money is available to you to use in that time frame without having it vulnerable to a lot of risk. Like you want to be able to take that trip next year, right? So we're going to choose an account that makes sense for that specific timeline, that specific goal. So that's one of the first things. We want to make sure that we're putting the money in something that is appropriate for how much time we have to keep the money there. So if you have a goal that's longer than a year out, sometimes we have goals that are 5 years out or 10 years out, or even more, like something like retirement for some folks could be decades away. That's going to dictate what kind of accounts we choose when it comes to savings and investing. So, of course, we got to know our goals first. And then from there, knowing how much you want to put towards those accounts, the savings or the investing. And you can only know that by creating a budget and figuring out how much money you have left over to devote to things that are non essential needs throughout the month, right? Like how much can you put towards savings and towards your investments? So those first two steps really have to happen before we're even talking about where to put the money and how to potentially invest it. So once you have that pinned down, what your goals are and how much you have available to put towards those goals, towards those savings accounts and investment accounts, that's when it's time to really start doing some research on what kinds of accounts might be best for your needs. Very often I would see clients choosing accounts out of loyalty, meaning they go to the same institution, the same bank for their checking account, their savings account, their investment accounts. And what I learned after being exposed to a lot of different accounts available out there is that no one institution is the best at all of them. So you want to shop around. Like when it comes to personal finance, you're a consumer and you can get picky about where you want to go and where you're going to get the most bang for your buck, just like anything else, just like how we would go grocery shopping, and try and look for the stores that are going to give us the best prices. So you want to find an account that's most appropriate for your needs, and that might mean going outside of the bank that you usually do business with. Lots of institutions are competitive, so we want to find who's going to give us the best thing.
How would I know like where to start looking? Like if I'm just used to going to the bank that I bank at and I want to see if there's a more competitive rate or like better terms, where would I start even looking for that? It sounds kind of daunting.
Yeah, it does sound daunting because a lot of this info is on an individual website of that particular institution, right? So it could require a lot of digging. But there are websites out there that review different types of accounts. So you can even just start simply by Googling, where can I find the best high yield savings account? Or what are the best IRAs of September 2022, which is when we're filming this right now. And that's where you can start to see a side by side comparison of what's being offered out in the industry at large. So you don't have to go to individual websites for that. So that's how you can do it on your own. But a financial planner should be abreast of all of these things as they change. Since it is competitive, the best savings account might be different from month to month as those institutions compete. So a financial planner could help you with that too and do some research on your behalf. But if you're doing it on your own, just a simple Google search of best high yield savings accounts could help you start to narrow down that search. So once you find which account is best for you, when you balance how much interest you're trying to get in the case of like a savings account, or what kind of investments you want access to. Then it's a matter of opening them, which in some cases can be really fast and easy. It can take as little as 10 minutes and you can do it all online. And then other times it might take a little bit more paperwork and a little bit more time to do. But once those accounts are open, the thing that we always recommend is to automate your savings and investing. And I'm sure you've probably heard that advice mentioned a lot, to just kind of set it and forget it. And we do that when we pay our credit cards each month, pay off our balances, or pay our utility bills. We try to automate them, and it's just one less thing that you have to think about. So the fundamental is still the same when it comes to savings and investing. You want to automate it, have it come right out of your paycheck, right out of your checking account every single month, so that way you can see those accounts grow over time, so they're available for the goals that they're intended for.
And so, how would I balance if I have maybe some goals that are shorter term, but I also want to make sure that I'm saving for my future, like for something really far away, like retirement? How do I kind of balance where my extra money goes if I need to feel like I will prioritize both of those?
So the question is, how do you prioritize putting money towards long-term goals like retirement, and also short-term goals like this trip that you have planned to South America?
Exactly. Like, should I be taking the trip or should I make sure I'm only putting money into my longer term goals so I have the money there for retirement? Like, how do I know how much to prioritize and what should be going where?
I think when you're tackling that question or that decision, it really comes down to where are you more comfortable being flexible. So if you're not on track for your retirement savings, are you more comfortable being flexible with when you take that trip in the short term? Or if you aren't on track for the trip, are you more comfortable being flexible with when you retire? So it really comes down to the individual and what you feel more comfortable with. I think that there can be that balance struck between long-term goals and short-term goals, and that's something that a planner could certainly help you with, is deciding, what percentage should I put towards each thing and still be on track for what I'm trying to accomplish. And then, of course, reevaluating it when things change. Investments can go up, they can go down, timelines shift all the time. That's the thing that's really exciting about financial planning, is that it's a living, breathing, dynamic experience. And over time, that percentage you might allocate towards something long term could increase or decrease in the same way that our short term goals can change. So I think the answer is just really, it depends on what you feel most comfortable with, and that can change month by month, year by year.
Yeah, well, I think that makes a ton of sense. So thank you. And the other question I had was, should I be paying down my debt before I invest, or should I be doing both at the same time? What should I prioritize there?
I had that question when I was working on paying off my student loans while also really wanting to save for retirement, because I had heard everywhere that any day that you don't invest towards your retirement is a day that's forever gone and you never get it back. And I felt this urgency around saving for retirement, but also just a lot of pressure and desire to become debt free as soon as possible. And what I decided to do was to put a certain amount of money each month towards a retirement account. So that way I had time to let that money benefit from compounding interest, right? And then also prioritize debt at that same time. So it was a bit of a balance. Once I became debt free, then that's when I went full throttle into retirement savings. But in my case, I really wanted to make sure I was still working towards that future goal too. So I would say that I think the psychological factor in that is important. We can look just at the interest rates, like how much you're paying in debt versus how much you might make in an investment in a retirement account. And we could break down the math there and say, well, your interest is costing more than what you could be making in this account. And that's all really valid. And I think we do have to consider that when making the decision on debt or investing towards our retirement. But there is that psychological factor too, where it just feels really good to know that you're making progress for future you while also grinding away at paying down your debt. So again, striking a balance between the two, the math and then how it feels for you is how we reach that decision.